They said she kept everything inside, until the pages started screaming. The morning air was cold, too cold for late spring. And yet, the silence around Olivia Carter's apartment building was heavier than the wind. Her front door was ajar, barely clinging to its hinges like someone had left in a hurry, or never meant to come back. Detective Rachel Monroe stepped into the dimly lit hallway with a slow, cautious breath. The floor creaked beneath her boots. Nothing seemed broken, but everything felt wrong. No signs of struggle. No blood. Just the unsettling quiet of a life interrupted. On the dining table sat a half-finished bowl of cereal. The milk had congealed. A phone charger dangled from the outlet. But it was what sat next to the breakfast bowl that made Rachel stop breathing for a moment. A diary. Worn, pink leather. Corners bent. A pen still tucked in between pages like the writer had only stepped away for a second. But Olivia hadn't been seen in 48 hours. Rachel put on gloves and flipped to the bookmarked page. The handwriting was sharp, urgent, almost angry. If anything happens to me, check the mirror in the attic. He promised no one would find it. But I couldn't let him hide forever. Rachel's breath caught. Who was he? Why the attic? And what was hidden there that Olivia knew, and someone else didn't want her to share? Outside, the street remained quiet. Neighbors avoided eye contact. No one had heard anything. No one had seen anyone. But the diary, Olivia's final written words, was a cry for help wrapped in terror. Rachel didn't know it yet, but this case wouldn't just test her instincts. It would make her question everything she believed about guilt, memory, and the power of secrets written in ink. And Olivia, she may have vanished without a sound, but her diary was about to scream. The attic door groaned as Rachel pushed it open. Dust swirled through the beam of her flashlight, catching on the air like floating ash. The temperature dropped, that kind of chill that doesn't come from weather, but from the feeling you're being watched. Rachel had read that line in the diary at least 5 times already. Check the mirror in the attic. What kind of mirror? And why here? The attic was cramped, old suitcases, faded boxes, broken furniture. But there, propped in the corner behind a stack of moth-eaten blankets, was a tall, freestanding mirror. Its glass was smudged, streaked, almost foggy. But in the center of it, something caught the light. Rachel leaned closer. A crack in the frame, barely visible. She reached behind it and felt a latch. The back popped open with a soft metallic click. Inside the hollowed frame was a sealed envelope. Her gloves trembled as she pulled it free. On the front, in Olivia's handwriting, "To be opened if I go missing." Rachel's heart pounded as she unfolded the letter. "I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. I was scared. I thought it would stop. He said it was just a mistake the first time. But now I think he's watching me. I see him in reflections, windows, mirrors, even my phone screen. I know how crazy this sounds. But please, if you're reading this, look at the people closest to me. He's not a stranger." Rachel's blood ran cold. Not a stranger? She turned slowly, eyes darting to every corner of the attic. The mirror now reflected her face, and behind her, the faintest suggestion of another figure. She whipped around. Empty. It had to be a trick of the light. But deep down, something told her this wasn't just paranoia. Someone Olivia trusted had betrayed her. And the mirror, it didn't just reflect faces. It reflected secrets. And now, those secrets were starting to surface. The pages weren't just ink and paper anymore. They were Olivia's last words. Rachel flipped through the diary again, her fingers trembling. The tone had changed. Earlier entries were playful doodles, song lyrics, hopeful notes about college. But somewhere along the way, the light drained from her writing. "I hear the back door open when I'm upstairs. But no one's there. He watches me sleep. I can feel it. But when I turn on the light, nothing. I told Grant to stay away, but I think he never really left." Rachel's stomach tightened. Grant Walters, Olivia's ex. He wasn't the violent type. Or at least that's what everyone said. But Olivia had stopped talking about him abruptly after the breakup. She'd said they just drifted apart. Now, Rachel wasn't so sure. One line stopped her cold. If I disappear, it's because someone made it happen. Please don't believe it was an accident. Rachel didn't wait. She drove straight to the police station, gripping the diary so hard her knuckles turned white. Inside, Captain Ruiz raised an eyebrow as she placed the worn journal on his desk. You said Olivia's case was closed, Rachel said, her voice breaking. But you missed this. He skimmed the last few pages, his expression hardening. This wasn't in the evidence log, he said quietly. Rachel leaned in. Because no one looked close enough. Ruiz picked up his phone. Get me everything you have on Grant Walters. And that's when Rachel's phone buzzed. One new voicemail. No number. No ID. Just static. And a whisper. You shouldn't have read that. The whisper echoed in her ears long after the voicemail ended. Rachel stared at her phone, the screen dimming in her trembling hand. She replayed the message twice. Same static, same voice, same chilling line. You shouldn't have read that. Her instinct screamed that it wasn't a prank. Outside the precinct, rain drizzled under a slate-gray sky. The city buzzed like any normal afternoon, but Rachel felt watched. Like the air itself had turned on her. She walked briskly to her car, her breath fogging up the windows before she even started the ignition. A black SUV sat parked 3 spaces behind her. Engine off. Windows tinted. Had it been there before? She didn't wait to find out. Back at Olivia's apartment, now sealed with yellow tape and dust, Rachel stood quietly, staring at the chipped doorframe. A maintenance man working nearby offered a cautious glance. You knew the girl who lived there? Rachel nodded. I'm trying to understand what happened. He hesitated. Well, I didn't want to say anything before, but the night she vanished, I saw someone. Rachel's heart skipped. Who? He looked over his shoulder. Tall guy, hoodie, pacing in front of her door. Around midnight. Thought it was her boyfriend, maybe. But he never knocked. Did you tell the police? They didn't ask. Rachel's grip on her phone tightened. Later that night, she sat on her couch with the diary in her lap. She flipped to a section marked with a torn receipt. The date, 2 weeks before Olivia vanished. The entry, I found a hidden folder on his drive. Videos. Me. In my room. At night. I thought I locked the window. He's not just watching me. He's planning something. Rachel's chest tightened. She could feel Olivia's fear bleeding through every word. And in the margin, one more line, scribbled hastily in pencil. If he finds this, he'll erase me completely. Rachel whispered aloud. Who was watching you, Olivia? But in the silence that followed, something creaked. Her front door, unlocked, opening. Rachel didn't breathe. The door creaked wider, inch by inch, until a gust of cold air swept through the apartment. She grabbed the nearest object, a brass candle holder, and stepped silently into the hallway, heart hammering in her chest. But no one was there. The door stood ajar, swaying slightly. No footsteps, no shadow, just the eerie hum of city life outside. Had she forgotten to lock it? Or had someone just been inside? Watching her read the diary? She slammed it shut, bolted the lock, and double-checked every window. Back in her living room, the diary lay open, its pages fluttering like they were breathing. A sticky note had fallen out, one she hadn't seen before. It wasn't Olivia's handwriting. You should stop now. Rachel's fingers went cold. She stared at the note. It hadn't been there earlier. She checked the page it had marked, an entry from 3 days before Olivia disappeared. He knows I'm pulling away. I told him I didn't feel safe anymore. I thought he'd beg, cry, like before. But this time he just smiled. He said, You're not leaving. You're mine. Forever. Rachel couldn't stop shaking. The words felt like fingerprints on her skin. She needed answers, fast. So she called Olivia's best friend, Maya, and asked to meet in person. They agreed on a quiet cafe off Brighton Street. When Rachel arrived, Maya was already there. Pale, anxious, stirring her coffee nonstop. Rachel sat down. Maya, there's something you're not telling the police. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know who else to trust. Rachel leaned in. Start from the beginning. Maya looked around nervously. The night Olivia disappeared, she sent me a voice message. I deleted it after I listened, but I still remember every word. Rachel's breath caught. What did she say? Maya whispered. She said, if anything happens to me, it was him. And I'm not just scared. He's done it before. Rachel blinked. Done what before? But Maya only stared at the table, like the next words might ruin everything. And that's when Rachel's phone buzzed. No caller ID. One new voicemail. And the voice? Not Maya. Not Olivia. It was a man. Calm. Cold. Detective, you've read enough. Then silence. But in the background, Rachel could swear she heard it. Breathing. Slow. Heavy. Right before the line cut out, Rachel's thumb hovered over the replay button. But her gut screamed, don't listen to it again. Still, her fingers betrayed her. Detective, you've read enough. The voice sounded even colder the second time. Like it belonged to someone who didn't just enjoy control, he demanded it. She replayed the background. Cranked up the volume. There was definitely breathing. But also, something else. Faint clinking. Metal against metal. Chains? She scribbled it down and turned to Maya. Does that sound like anything familiar? Maya nodded slowly, lips trembling. Olivia used to say he had a... She stopped herself, looked around, and lowered her voice. She said he had a secret room. In the basement of his house. She called it the cold box. Rachel's chest tightened. Did she ever describe it? She wouldn't talk about it much. Only once after a fight. She said it smelled like bleach and copper. That he locked it with a keypad and kept it soundproof. Rachel closed her eyes. Soundproof. Hidden. Cold. She had heard rumors of off-grid rooms. Makeshift prisons disguised as storage or workshops. But this one felt personal. Designed. Meant to erase someone completely. She opened Olivia's diary again and flipped back. There, nearly missed between two torn pages, she found a doodle. It was crude. Charcoal pencil. But unmistakable. A floor plan. The bottom corner was circled with two shaky words. No exit. Rachel stared at it for a long time. I need his address. Maya hesitated. If you go alone, he'll know. Rachel nodded. That's why I'm not going alone. She called her captain. But instead of answering, she got voicemail. You've reached Captain Ellis. Leave a message. She hung up. Something wasn't right. She tried dispatch. The line rang, then cut. Tried again, busy. Her phone buzzed. A text. No name. Don't bring backup. Come alone if you want the truth. Midnight. 14 Sycamore Lane. Maya looked over her shoulder. That's his house. Rachel whispered. How does he know I have the diary? Maya's eyes filled with terror. Because that voicemail? That wasn't live. Rachel froze. Maya said, that message was recorded. Hours ago. Rachel's mouth went dry. Then how did he know? I read it just now. And in that moment, Rachel turned toward the window. And realized it was open. Rachel lunged toward the window. The curtains fluttered gently, as if someone had just been there watching. She stepped closer. No footprints. No sounds. Just the faint scent of cologne, not hers. She slammed the window shut, heart thudding like a war drum. How long has that been open? Maya whispered. I don't know, Rachel muttered. But if he was listening, then he's always been one step ahead. She looked down at her phone. The screen glowed. One new text. You're good, detective. But she was better. Rachel's breath caught. He wasn't just taunting her. He was grieving her. Or pretending to. She turned to Maya. We can't wait. We go now. But you'll be walking into a trap, Maya said, trembling. Rachel slipped her badge into her jacket pocket. I'd rather walk into a trap than let him keep writing the ending. The drive to 14 Sycamore Lane was slow and silent. Street lamps flickered like nervous glances. Every red light felt deliberate. Every car behind them felt too close. By the time they pulled onto the dead-end street, Rachel's knuckles were white around the steering wheel. The house was exactly as Olivia had sketched in the diary. Plain siding, broken shutters, a crooked mailbox. But the real story lived in the silence. Not a dog barking, not a bird chirping. Even the wind felt wrong. Rachel stepped out. The gravel crunched underfoot. The front porch groaned with age as she approached. No lights, no movement. But the door, it was open. She pulled her weapon, slowly pushed it with her boot. It creaked wide, revealing a dark hallway. A low hum came from somewhere beneath the floor. Basement. She turned to Maya, who stayed in the car, clutching Olivia's diary like it was a life raft. Rachel stepped in. The floorboards moaned beneath her. To the left, a living room frozen in time, dusty, untouched, unnatural. To the right, a kitchen with one single teacup on the counter. The steam rising from it was fresh. Someone had just been here. And ahead, a narrow door, heavy, steel, just like Olivia had described. Rachel pressed her ear to it. Faint static, like a radio on low. Then, a click. From behind her, the front door slammed shut. She turned, weapon raised. But no one was there. Then another click. This time behind the steel door. And a voice came through the crack, soft, calculated. "I knew you'd come alone, Rachel." Rachel froze. The voice through the steel door wasn't shouting. It wasn't angry. It was calm. Too calm. As if he'd been expecting this moment his entire life. She steadied her hand on the gun and spoke into the silence. "Open the door." "Why would I do that?" he replied smoothly. "You're not here to save her. You're here to understand her." Rachel clenched her jaw. "Olivia trusted someone. She trusted you. And you destroyed her." A low laugh echoed behind the door. "She wrote about me in that little book of hers. Didn't she? Let me guess. The basement. The cold box. The games." Rachel's throat tightened. This wasn't a confession. It was a performance. "I want to see where she died," she said firmly. Silence. Then the lock clicked. Slowly, the heavy door creaked open. Rachel stepped inside. And the air changed. It was colder, damp. The walls were lined with silver insulation, covered in marker drawings. Twisted, frantic. Scribbles that repeated the same two words. "Remember me." In the center of the room, a chair bolted to the floor. Straps still dangling from the armrests. And a video camera facing it. Rachel scanned the floor. There, a diary. Not Olivia's. Another one. She picked it up. On the first page, in jagged handwriting. "For the one who thinks they're in control." She flipped through. Pages filled with dates, names, feelings, victims. But not just women. Children. Men. All listed with eerie observations. "She liked to scream when I hummed." He begged. "They always do." "The detective is next." Rachel's fingers trembled. She was reading the mind of a predator who didn't just document horror. He narrated it. Suddenly, a noise. Creak behind her. She turned sharply. The door was closing. She rushed toward it, too late. It slammed shut. Locks turned. "You really thought I didn't know you'd bring the diary?" His voice echoed through a speaker hidden somewhere in the walls. "You want a confession? Then listen carefully. I didn't kill Olivia." Rachel's chest heaved. "What?" She was still alive. When you started reading, her pulse pounded in her ears. "The question is, detective, do you know where she is now?" Rachel banged on the steel door. "Where is she?" "You're standing where she last screamed your name." Silence. Then, a low whimper. From the dark corner of the room, Rachel turned, slowly, and saw a second door. Unmarked, bolted shut, and something moving underneath it. Rachel's breath hitched. Something scratched from behind the second door. Not loud, deliberate. She moved closer, heart thudding in rhythm with the scraping. "Maya," she whispered into her radio. But static was the only reply. Her signal was dead, or jammed. The killer had planned this far too well. She pressed her ear against the steel. A soft sound, breathing. Shallow, desperate, still alive. She grabbed a nearby crowbar leaning against the wall, left there intentionally, like bait. She wedged it into the rusted bolt and pulled hard. The metal groaned. The hinges fought. One more push. Crack. The door gave in. Rachel stumbled back from the cold rush of air. And then, she saw her. Olivia. Emaciated. Eyes barely open. Hands zip-tied. Lying on a thin mattress, her lips cracked but moving. Rachel. She whispered. Rachel dropped to her knees. I'm here. You're okay. You're safe now. Tears burned her eyes as she cut the ties and wrapped her arms around the girl. But Olivia shook her head, weakly. He never left. Rachel froze. And then, a loudspeaker crackled. Touching reunion. Rachel spun around. Show yourself. You walked into my story, detective. You never controlled the ending. A low mechanical click echoed above. Rachel looked up. A small red light blinked in the ceiling vent. A gas release valve. No and oh. She pulled Olivia into her arms and ran. Smoke hissed from the corners of the room. Back through the basement, every exit sealed tight. Rachel covered Olivia's mouth with her jacket. Coughing. Dizzy. She spotted a window. High, narrow, but not locked. Rachel climbed on a shelf and shattered the glass with the crowbar. The sharp metal sliced her palm, but she didn't feel it. She lifted Olivia up toward the air, muscles trembling, lungs burning. Almost there, baby. Hold on. She pushed Olivia through first, then pulled herself up, knees scraping, arms shaking. One last heave, and they were out. They collapsed into the overgrown backyard. Gasping, Rachel looked back at the house. But no figure, no shadow, just smoke curling from broken glass. And in that moment, a quiet beep from Rachel's pocket. Her phone. One new message. From a blocked number. She wasn't the only one who wrote a diary. Her fingers trembled as she opened the attached photo. It was a shot of her desk. At home. The drawer half open. Inside, a diary. Bound in black leather. With her name on it. Rachel stared at the photo. Her desk. Her home. Her name. Engraved in gold on the cover of a diary she'd never seen before. She blinked hard, heart pounding louder than her thoughts. How did he get into her house? How long had he been watching her? She clutched Olivia tighter. The girl's breathing had steadied, but her grip on Rachel's jacket was trembling. Rachel, Olivia whispered. He said, you'd never stop looking. Rachel's phone buzzed again. Another message. You broke into my past. I opened your future. She stood, glancing over her shoulder. No sirens yet. No backup. Just the echo of smoke and memories that didn't belong to her, yet somehow felt familiar. She opened her contacts and dialed Maya again. Still no signal. A soft rustle behind her. Olivia flinched. Rachel turned sharply. Nothing. Just wind rattling through the ivy-covered fence. But her instinct screamed. She helped Olivia to her feet, scanning for shelter. An abandoned tool shed sat 20 feet away. Small, rotted, maybe useless, but it was cover. They limped toward it, Rachel shielding Olivia with every step. Inside, it smelled of mildew and old metal. Cobwebs stretched across the corners like warning signs. Rachel sat Olivia down on a dusty crate. Then she pulled out the diary, the one she'd found in the basement. She hadn't had time to finish it. She flipped to the last written page. Her blood ran cold. If you're reading this, you're standing where I buried the truth. Buried. Rachel's eyes darted across the shed floor. Uneven boards. Dust gathered in odd patterns. She knelt, brushed away the grime, and tapped the floorboards. Hollow. She grabbed a rusted shovel leaning against the wall. The first hit sent dust flying. The second cracked wood. By the fifth, the plank gave way, revealing dirt. Then plastic. She pulled, peeled. Her stomach turned. A small box. Inside, a photo. Torn. Half of a family. A man. A woman. A child. And on the back, in slanted handwriting. Don't you remember, Rachel? She dropped it. Rachel. Olivia whispered, her voice thin. Rachel backed away. This wasn't just a killer's twisted game. It was personal. And if this box had been hidden here, there had to be more. More lies. More names. More victims. But what terrified her most was the question that now burned behind her eyes. What had she forgotten? And who was he to know more about her past than she did? She stood slowly, eyes locked on Olivia, who looked just as afraid. Not of what they'd escaped, but of what was still coming. Rachel couldn't stop staring at the photo. Her hands trembled as she picked it up again. The torn edges, the faded ink, the woman's face beside the man eerily familiar, and the little girl. She had the same eyes, the same crooked smile Rachel used to see in the mirror when she was 8. Was that her? Her pulse thundered. "I don't remember this," she whispered, but the weight in her chest said otherwise. "Rachel," Olivia's voice cracked. "You're scaring me." Rachel turned to her, barely breathing. "You said he talked about me?" Olivia nodded. "He said you ruined everything before. And now you have to finish it. Before. What did he mean by that?" Rachel rose to her feet, clutching the diary and the photo. Her mind swirled, memories flickering like lightning behind storm clouds. Shattered voices, screams, a basement door slamming shut, a child crying. She shook her head hard, trying to erase it, but the images clung. Then her phone lit up. 1 bar of service. She didn't hesitate, dialed Maya. It rang. Once, twice. Then someone answered. But it wasn't Maya. And it wasn't her voice. "You shouldn't have come back," the voice rasped. Rachel froze. "Who is this?" Silence. Then a soft laugh. Cold. Unhuman. "You're late. The truth's already awake." Click. The call ended. Rachel stared at the phone like it had betrayed her. "Who was it?" Olivia asked, her voice barely audible. Rachel didn't know how to answer. Suddenly, bang. The toolshed door flung open. Rachel grabbed Olivia and dove behind the crate, clutching her close. She held her breath. Footsteps. Boots, heavy and slow. A flashlight beam swept across the room, landing right where they had been seconds ago. Rachel's heart pounded in her ears. She could smell the oil on the man's jacket, hear the metal of something sharp being unsheathed. Then, silence. The beam disappeared. The door creaked again, shut. Rachel waited, counted to 10, 20, 30, then slowly peeked out. Empty. Whoever it was had changed their mind. Or they were waiting, watching. Rachel helped Olivia up, her legs numb. "We can't stay here," she whispered. She tucked the photo and diary into her jacket and opened the door a crack. The yard was quiet, but that kind of quiet was wrong, because when evil steps back, it's only gathering force. Rachel ran. The wet leaves stuck to her boots as she dragged Olivia through the woods. Every branch that snapped behind them made her spin, wild-eyed, heart in her throat. But it wasn't just fear. It was memory, and it was unraveling. Every step they took, a new piece came back. Like the woods themselves were peeling back the layers she'd buried deep. She remembered being here, not as an adult, as a child, barefoot, crying. "Rachel," Olivia gasped. "What if he's following us?" She didn't answer. She couldn't, because deep down, she knew he was. Then the sound, sharp, echoing through the trees. Whistle. One long tone, like a call. Rachel stopped cold. Her breath hitched. Olivia whispered, "What was that?" But Rachel already knew. That sound, it was in the diary, scrawled in shaky handwriting across 3 separate pages. "If you hear the whistle, don't run. He sees better in motion." Rachel crouched, pulling Olivia with her behind a fallen tree. The whistle came again. Closer. "Don't move." She gripped Olivia's hand tighter than ever. Then the forest lit up. A flashlight beam swept across the trees. Heavy footsteps. Closer now. Crunching underfoot. Rachel squeezed her eyes shut, praying, "Please, please just keep walking." Then she heard it. Something dragging. Metal on bark. Chains? The beam stopped, directly on the fallen tree. They didn't breathe. Not a sound. A cough. Then footsteps turning away, retreating. Rachel waited until the light faded completely before she dared to speak. "We're going to Maya," she whispered. "She has the answers." "But what if she's not?" Rachel snapped, her voice cracking. "She's not. She can't be." She took the diary from her coat. The last page was still blank. But something new caught her eye. The back cover. It had been slit open, like someone had hidden something inside. Rachel tore the seam open with shaking fingers. A folded piece of paper fell out. Coordinates. And one line scribbled in red. "Where it ended is where it began." Rachel stared at the page, heart pounding. That wasn't her handwriting. It wasn't Maya's either. But it looked familiar. Too familiar. "Come on," she said, standing. She didn't know what they'd find at those coordinates. But one thing was certain. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Rachel's hands trembled as she keyed the coordinates into her phone. The map flickered, then zoomed in. A cabin. Deep in the northern woods. No roads led there. No cell towers nearby. Olivia leaned over her shoulder. How did Maya ever find this place? Rachel didn't answer. Because Maya wasn't supposed to know about it. Only one person could have written those coordinates. And he was supposed to be dead. They reached the highway by dawn. Rachel flagged down a truck and the driver, an older man with kind eyes, agreed to take them as far as the forest edge. As they climbed in, Olivia whispered, "What if it's a trap?" Rachel turned to her, her voice low but steady. "If it is, then we walk in together." The drive was silent, save for the hum of tires and the pounding of Rachel's thoughts. She stared at the trees blurring past, but her mind replayed Maya's voice from years ago. "If I disappear, Rachel, follow the lies, not the trail." At the edge of the woods, the driver dropped them off. "You girls sure about this?" he asked, eyes full of concern. Rachel only nodded. They trekked in. No paths, no signs, just thick underbrush and the crunch of frost underfoot. Hours passed. The sun dipped lower, and the wind carried an eerie silence. Then, through the trees, a silhouette. A small cabin. Rotting wood, windows boarded. A sagging roof swallowed by moss. Rachel's breath hitched. "I've seen this before," she murmured. Inside her nightmares, they approached cautiously, flashlights in hand. Every creak beneath their boots made Olivia flinch. At the door, Rachel hesitated. Her hand hovered above the rusted doorknob. A whisper, almost lost in the wind. "Rachel!" She turned sharply, but no one was there. She pushed open the door. It groaned, revealing darkness thick with dust and cold. The flashlight's beam cut through, illuminating a shattered mirror on the wall, and a single chair in the center of the room. On it, a tape recorder. Rachel stepped forward, pressed play. Static. Then a voice. Low, calm, male. "You finally came back. There's more in that diary than ink, Rachel. There's blood on every page, and not all of it's hers." Olivia froze. That voice! Rachel gripped the recorder, heart racing, because she knew it too. She hadn't heard it in 10 years. Her father's voice. Rachel couldn't breathe. Her father's voice still echoed through the cabin like it had never left. Olivia was shaking now, backing away from the chair, her eyes wide. This isn't possible," she whispered. "Your dad died. I remember the funeral." But Rachel wasn't listening. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out Maya's diary. Her fingers flipped to the last page. The one that had been smeared, torn, hidden behind a glued seam. She peeled it back. There, in Maya's handwriting, desperate, uneven, was one sentence. "He said he'd come back for Rachel next." Rachel stumbled backward. The diary slipped from her hands. Olivia picked it up, her voice trembling. "Your father was her therapist, wasn't he? That's how they met." Rachel nodded slowly, memories colliding like broken glass in her chest. "He treated her after her brother died. He said she needed help, that she was fragile. But he never told me how close they got." Olivia scanned the next entry, newly revealed. "He didn't just get close, Ratch. He obsessed. Suddenly, the tape recorder clicked again. Click. Static. Then breathing. Slow. Measured. You were always the one, Rachel. Maya was a test. But you're the masterpiece. Rachel's stomach twisted. Her flashlight flickered, then died. In the sudden darkness, she felt it again, eyes watching. Not just the weight of the past, but something alive, present. Olivia's light caught something, a photograph nailed to the cabin wall. Rachel's school portrait, age 10. And below it, an empty hook, meant for another. Rachel whispered, "He never left. He's been here, waiting." Just then, a creak from the floor above. Olivia's beam swung to the ceiling. Dust drifted down. Footsteps. Rachel grabbed the diary. Because now she understood. The final pages weren't just a record of what had happened. They were a blueprint of what was coming. And Rachel? She was already written into the ending. Rachel's heart thundered in her chest. The creaking above grew louder, deliberate, measured. No wind. No animal. Person. Olivia mouthed, "We need to leave." But Rachel stepped forward. Diary clutched to her chest. "No, not yet. I need to know how it ends." The cabin door slammed shut behind them. They both froze. Then, from the top of the stairs, a shadow appeared. Tall, still, familiar. Rachel's breath caught. "Dad!" The figure stepped into the dim beam of the flashlight. It wasn't her father, but it was him. Dr. Elliot Crane, her father's oldest patient. The one who'd disappeared after the fire. A name she remembered only in passing. But Maya had written about him in the margins of her diary. "He watched me during sessions when Dr. Collins wasn't looking. He followed me home once. I told Dr. Collins. He said I was imagining it. He wasn't a stranger. He'd been there all along, hiding in her father's shadow." "You were never supposed to come here," Crane murmured, his voice even. But then again, neither was Maya. Olivia stepped between them. "Stay back." Crane tilted his head, eyes glinting. "You know what your father started, Rachel? I just continued it. The diary, it was meant to be found, to test how far you'd go." Rachel's knees nearly buckled. Every memory of her father. His quiet anger, his absences, his strange late nights, flooded back, now rewritten in blood. "Why Maya?" she whispered. "Why me?" Crane smiled faintly. "Because you looked so much like her." He lunged. Olivia fired her stun gun. Crane dropped hard, hitting the wooden floor with a thud. Police sirens split the air seconds later. Rachel had hit the emergency beacon in her coat. The cabin flooded with red and blue lights. Officers swarmed in. Crane, dazed but alive, was cuffed and taken away. Later, under the sterile lights of the station, Rachel sat holding the diary, now bagged in evidence. She stared at the final line Maya had written. "Truth always leaves traces." Rachel looked up at Olivia, who handed her a cup of coffee. "You okay?" Rachel nodded slowly. "No, but I will be." As dawn broke over the mountains, Rachel walked outside. The nightmare wasn't over, but the silence had finally been broken. And for Maya, for the others forgotten, the truth had finally found its voice. If you want more chilling true crime stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to the Veil of Secrets.